Hi, everybody. Welcome to our webinar. We will be starting in 1 minute. Please, can you make sure you know where the chat function is? And you are welcome to add any comments you have below or questions also. I am here. I don't know if anyone can see me. If you can see me, please can you react or say you can see me in the chat function, please? Hi, Matt. Here you are.
Hi, Amy. I can see you perfectly.
Perfect. Thank you for joining us. What time is it where you are currently?
Let's see, is that a question for me, by the way, or are we asking that to the group?
Yeah, for you, because you
For me?
are
Okay, cool. It is, I guess I'm the only one in the US here. So it is 12:30 p.m.
12:30.
And
And
I
we're in the
assume it's
US.
yeah.
No, that's awesome. And whereabouts in the US are you?
Yeah, so I'm calling in from Tampa, Florida.
Tampa, Florida.
Mhm.
Awesome. And Matt, I mean,
Excited to
this
be
is
here.
an exciting, well, I mean, it's a day later, but you had your big launch of Hire SA yesterday. Did everything
We
go according to
did.
plan?
Almost according to plan. We had a few little issues, but they were sorted out. But super excited for the launch. Thank you, Amy, by the way, for the invites. I'm really excited to provide as much value as possible. And yeah, no, we're definitely looking forward to Hire SA to see what it can do for South African remote workers.
Amazing. Thank you. And so just to let all our listeners know, so how Matt and I got in contact was through LinkedIn. So it was, when you use the network properly, you can actually get the right resources to help elevate your personal brand or your company brand or your opportunities. So to the people that have joined us today, let's be honest, how many of you have at 11 o'clock at night, you're stressed about money and you've Googled how to work remotely overseas? If that's you, please comment. That's me in the comment section or the chat box. There we go. I see a few coming through. All the time. Thanks, Janet. At the end of the day, that is the point of this webinar, is to give you the tools to make those options available to you. While you're busy commenting, let's ask everybody, what industry are you in? If you can type in there the industry that you are in. Just while you're typing, this webinar is purely information. There is a very exciting promotion at the end, and we will give you the tools you need to help elevate your business, well, yourself and your career. But at the end of the day, it always helps to have a one-to-one consultation about your best options, and to present yourself correctly. So let's get into it. This is a very interactive webinar. So I'm going to be sharing some questions and let's see how it goes. Sorry, this webinar has now started all the way at the beginning, at the end. Always tech issues. Okay. So the first thing, question for everyone. If a US company offered you double your current salary tomorrow, would you, A, leave immediately, B, think about it, or C, stay in South Africa no matter what? What is your question? Yeah, Matt, I mean, if you were, looking for a South African to come work with you, what would you look out for?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think when business owners are right hiring, it's much more than like the cost. It's really the quality of talent. I mean, so as a business owner, they can hire remote talent from anywhere overseas, all over the globe, right? It can be India, it can be the Philippines, it could be Europe, United States. So I think a big misconception is that businesses hire overseas just for cost savings. I really think that's quite a myth. There's a little bit of truth to that. But if you bring a lot of value to the table, yes, businesses definitely will hire you and possibly double your salary.
Mm,
But I also think it's important to know where you are in the market, right? So, if you're a marketing manager and you offer really good services, but there's a person also in South Africa that offers the same services for less cost, the
mm,
business owner is going to go with them. So you also got to be mindful of the market that you're in,
mm.
as well as the value you
Absolutely.
add as well. So I think it's kind of a complicated answer a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And that also brings up the debate of, US companies or strong companies use South Africans, kind of exploit them from a salary perspective. Um, but at the end of the day, when you're sitting at home and you're struggling to put food on the table, you're going to do what it takes. Um,
Exactly.
Absolutely. And, also to all the listeners, thank you for commenting. I see lots of
Yeah.
A's. People will get up and leave
Leave
immediately.
immediately.
But there's a
I
lot to
would too.
consider. I would too, also. Depends on where in the US. I'm not a fan of the cold, so as long as the weather's nice. Um, but also, there's a lot of things to consider. This is a super vague question. If a US company offered you double your current salary, now US has a different time zone. So, what hours are you working? What are you sacrificing to do that job for double the salary? And also this role, it doesn't say remote, it doesn't say in person. If it was in person, what are your visa pathways? Are you looking at an option where you're moving overseas just for a year? And then what? You're leaving your family behind, then you've got to come back and start over. There's lots of things to consider. And that's why with greener pastures, we make sure that you've got the best opportunities long term. Hence the name greener pastures. So I see with all our viewers here, how do you know you're in the right place if this webinar is for you? You're interested in working remotely. That's a big one. That's the main focus here. You've got a skill that can be used globally. That's a very important element. You've got to stand out with your skill set. And then also earning a foreign currency. With the rand being as weak as it is, it's always nice to earn a foreign currency. But there are, things that you need to consider when it comes to taxes, rates of exchange, how you're getting the money, how you're using the money. So money is not everything in this element. You also need opportunities to grow. So while we prepare for the next slide, I want to ask people, what is your biggest frustration currently with job hunting? Are you not getting feedback? Do you need experience to get experience? Are the salaries too low? What is bothering you right now about your job hunting, and why are you unemployed? If you are at this point. If you can please, share your frustrations in the comments and, we can address it as we go along. Um, so here we're talking about why people are currently working remotely. And this is a little debate where I feel like people could take sides. The first option is, in the chat, if you think remote work is the future, or if you think offices will always matter. you know what is your take? Choose number one if you think remote work is the future, and number two if you think offices will always matter. Matt, I'd love to get your opinion on this. What do you think about the topic?
Yeah, well, I'm actually just reading the comments here. Pretty interesting, Hannah. Very difficult to find a remote job in South Africa. Oops, excuse me. Um, but yeah, I mean, so the perspective I bring is usually from the employer side of things. That's really where my kind of insight comes from. So I can give you a little kind of insight into why employers like to hire remote, and then I can, of course, provide my own feedback as I work remotely. The things I like. For me, right, gas prices are super high. I like that I don't have to drive to an office. It's like
Absolutely.
almost $5 a gallon here. I don't know what it is in South Africa, but it's
Sure.
kind of annoying. But and then just the flexible work schedule.
Mm,
Um, and then as far as the employer side of things go, it usually comes down to multiple things, right? So, obviously they don't have to pay for the office, right? Access to global talent. But one of the biggest things is usually just finding the right person can be difficult in one location, right? So, for
mm,
instance, in Tampa here, like we got a lot of salespeople here, but maybe we're low on accountants. So there's a shortage of accountants, and in-office employers simply just can't hire accountants here because there are none, or very
mm,
few, right? So remote work opens up that talent pool to
mm,
different markets as well. So from the employer side of things, the main benefit is just access to new skills and different talents from all over the globe, whether that's in the US, South Africa, wherever it may be.
mm,
So I would say that is the biggest thing. I know there's quite a bit debate on whether in office or remote work is better. I tend to like remote work better. I'm all for it. I've been working remote for about 3 years now. But I know, a lot of people that, they like going in the
mm.
office, a hybrid schedule. I've never heard anyone say, I love just going in the office 5 days a week. Maybe we have some here. I don't know
Yeah.
about you, Amy.
I don't know if that's you. It would be great to hear your feedback in the comments. Yeah, I mean it's a tricky one because I work remotely, but I also notice with South Africans, with the nature of work that I do, people want to come to my office. They want to see me. They want to, know that we're not a scam because that's a big issue. But at the same time, I choose to work remotely because it suits my lifestyle. I've got a little dog that goes everywhere with me, and you can't really take him to an office space. Um, but at the same time, I do feel like an office it's good to have an office. And if you're working in a team environment, to have like once a week, working together to keep that teamwork alive. But at the end of the day, everybody is different. Everybody has different requests. Some people can't work at home because they've got kids and this and that, and it's too distracting. And some people need to, um, work alone and be cornered off in a room. So, on that topic, why people are working remotely, from the employee side, uncapped opportunities, foreign currency, workplace flexibility, and then also it's a great way to expose yourself globally. And then I guess you could inverse this for employers, uncapped opportunities, you've got
Mhm.
a variety of skills, you're paying in different currencies, you've got people working at different hours throughout the day, and then also global exposure for a business. So it does work on both sides. Um, awesome. So moving on, I want to share a little bit about Greener Pastures. So Greener Pastures is a proudly South African company. We are based in Durban, but we are fully remote. So I've got clients in Cape Town, I've got clients in the UK, I've got clients in the Bahamas, I've got clients all over. It's very, very cool. But the goal of our company, Greener Pastures, is to, number one, give you global exposure. So, if you sign on for a certain country, we're not going to limit your options when we look at recruitment and placements. Um, we're not a traditional recruitment agency. And this is why, having conversations with people like Matt is super useful, and to showcase that, because we put your best foot forward. We represent you. Matt represents the employer. I want to make sure that you're getting the best opportunity. So we're on either sides of the scale. For people who use our services, we do on average 350 applications for our clients per week. And then people come on board and we're exposing them to LinkedIn opportunities. So it elevates their job search. Our Google reviews 4.6. I'd love that to be 5, but we are in a service industry and you just can't make everybody happy as much as you try. But take a look at our reviews. I've got nothing to hide. And then myself, I'm Amy Peacock. I'm the owner, director of this company. And my reach is large. As you can see here, this is just stats from the past few days. You can check 7 days or 14 days or 30 days. And the posts that I share has a large reach. So when I'm exposing you as a Greener Pastures client, we're exposing you to the right people. And again, it's quality over quantity. So with that being said, I want to go hand over to you, Matt. Can you tell everybody about Hire SA?
For sure. So I think it'd be helpful just to kind of introduce myself. And I am really here to just bring value to the table and to give an insight perspective into what employers are looking for, so that you can land your next remote job. So I'm going to be sharing as much as possible. I think we'll have a Q&A section where we can ask as many questions as you want, and I'll be happy to answer it. But essentially, my background is with overseas global recruitment. Just in the past 2 years, I've spoken to over 1,000 employers. They're ranging from Fortune 500 companies, CEOs, to the mom and pop small businesses, maybe hiring for like an executive assistant, to Silicon Valley startups, agencies. Just in the past 2 years, I've spoken to, I think, around 2,000 employers. 1,000 employers have actually helped hire overseas. And I say that just so you know that I can kind of give the inside perspective on what they're asking for in candidates, what they're looking for. And I think it's going to be different than what a lot of people think, because I've been talking to some candidates recently about, how to create a good profile here. And I'm like, employers are looking for something totally different. So I think there's a bit of a discrepancy, miscommunication from the employer side of things to the candidates. And I think just providing that insight so you can, maybe improve your strategy if you're looking for a new job or a new part-time job. I just want to help you out. So I built HireSA to essentially help do that as well, right? So what we do is we're a job board connecting our network of US, UK, and Australian-based companies to remote talent in South Africa, right? So as a candidate, you can essentially go create a profile, upload an introduction video, and then apply to jobs. So pretty straightforward. Why I built this really is because I noticed that there was a lot of middlemen, right? So there's Upwork, there's these agencies, there's recruitment agencies too, which is great. But for employees and just remote workers who are just trying to look for a job directly, there wasn't really many great options, right? And we know that there's wonderful talent in South Africa. So it's really just to bridge the gap between employers and candidates.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And Matt, why do people want South Africans over other nationalities?
That is a wonderful question. And I think it's also really important to understand the value that you can bring, right? So the biggest reason is going to be the English skills, right? So this is, employers have been hiring from usually the Philippines or maybe Latin America, right? They're wonderful workers, but their English is really broken. And this is really detrimental for customer-facing roles. So the biggest advantage South Africa has is actually those customer-facing roles, sales roles, account manager, customer success manager, right? Maybe you're an operations manager or project manager, and you have to speak to multiple stakeholders. US employers like blown away by the English. And actually, South Africans tend to resonate better than a lot of Americans. I guess it's the
Interesting.
accent. Yeah. But we've actually done some internal studies sometimes where we're testing, and this is just, speaking to multiple, employers where they've hired 4 US sales representatives, and then they hire 4 sales representatives in South Africa, and the South Africans actually outperform the US based ones. So, it really depends on some of the roles, right? And I'm not an advocate for employers to just, hire everything from, overseas. I think there's a good mix and balance that employers can utilize.
Absolutely. I see David Goodman has asked a question here. Can
Mhm.
I throw it at you here, Matt?
Oh
So,
boy, yes.
what has been the biggest disconnect that you've seen between employers and employees in your experience? This actually, just before you ask that question, I actually wanted to ask you, what does nobody tell South Africans about remote work? And I feel like they're connected. What's the disconnect? Can you give us light?
I would say there's 2 big ones. The biggest misconception, one of the biggest, is the notion that you have to be a super specialist, right, in your field, right? So maybe you're an executive assistant and you just really want to narrow down on like calendar management and just EA skills. But a lot of businesses are looking for an executive assistant that can also do bookkeeping, maybe some light project management, social media, right? And it's kind of the age of the generalist, right? So businesses want people who can wear multiple hats, who know multiple skills, able to take on different responsibilities rather than just a specialized skill, if that makes sense. I was actually talking to the candidate and she labeled herself as a typist, right? I'm like, everyone can type. That's
Yeah.
not exactly a great marketing strategy there. You want to be multifaceted, right? So you can, for instance, I suggested she market herself as an executive assistant. Executive assistants, by the way, are paid more than virtual assistants. And they
Yeah.
just basically are more like a personal assistant. I'm sorry, virtual assistant. Executive assistant,
Yeah.
it's more than virtual assistant. The biggest thing also, I know a lot of candidates may not like to hear this, but it's AI. The good
Mm.
news is it's kind of easy to learn AI, but if you do not have AI skills in your resume, 9 times out of 10, you're just going to get passed up. They're not even going to interview you. And
Mm.
this is conversations with hundreds of employers where they mention at the end of the call, when I talk to them, they need to have AI skills. Sometimes they'll
Mm.
mention, right? So they need to know ChatGPT, Claude. If it's a marketing role, they need to know, Canva, whatever it may be.
Mm.
The cool thing is, I think it's fairly easy to pick up on AI skills, right? And just add it to your profile, right? So I
Absolutely.
would spend maybe a few days a week just learning some of the basics and adding those in. Um, so I would say those are the 2 biggest things.
Mm.
Let me think. I'll get back to you and see if I can come up with some more here as well. But does that make sense, Amy?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
It's such a funny thing because I do, I help people move to countries like Australia, New Zealand, Canada, UK. And I find in those countries, they are so specific about your skill set. If you are a fitter, you cannot be a fitter and an electrician. So in South Africa, you get something called a millwright, and it's a double trade in one. So you are multi-skilled as a fitter and an
Yeah.
electrician. Now,
Yeah.
those candidates, they have to choose one occupation to go through like the skills assessment, the visa process, all of that. And they're multi-skilled. But now countries like, I mean, with a remote work, that's not really a job that you can do remotely unless you're consulting or engineering. But at the same time, remote work is a whole different ball game. Matt, maybe just to add to that, what is like your number one top tip that people can use to stand out when they're looking at remote work?
Used to stand out to employers?
Yes.
Yeah, so I would say that is a great question, by the way, because this is also something that job seekers can make a quick change to their strategy, right? And they will be getting more serious interviews and probably getting hired a lot more too. Actually, it's how using this strategy is how I got hired, right? So the current perception, at least when I talked to a lot of, job seekers recently, is I'll go apply to their job. I'll find out who the hiring manager is if I'm super ambitious, message them, right? Follow up, interview, follow up, right? That is all, that all is fine and dandy, but this is what everyone else is doing, right? So employers, they have like limited, attention span, right? They're not these like all-knowing beings that can are analyzing each of your profiles individually, right? So you basically need to stand out. From a South Africa's perspective, the biggest way you can do that is by making a short introduction video. So on Hire Say, we've actually built this where the introduction video is like front and center, right? So if you can make a good video, that is going to be such an advantage to you because, again, remember, a lot of employers don't know about the English skills in South Africa, right? A lot of employers don't even think, do they kind of speak English? It's like a fourth or fifth language. And then they talk to them like, wow, this is amazing. Oh my gosh, you can do sales, you can do all this stuff, right? So making that introduction video is an excellent way. Another way to look also at, just real quick, at the introduction video is you want to make a positive first impression, right? A lot of times first impressions come from the first interview, right? So you may make a good first impression, you may make a bad first impression, but why leave it up to chance? And, when you have one shot, when you can make an introduction video and do as many takes as you want, right?
Yeah.
And the least important thing on an introduction video is the content. The main thing is how you present yourself, how well you speak. We actually have a short training video on Hire Say on how to do this, but just making yourself presentable with good lighting, a decent camera, that will go a lot. Or help you a lot during your job seeking process. Now, also, when you do land an interview, just one more thing on this, after you do that first interview, I would not just be sitting and waiting around, right? This is a great chance to make a personal video, personalized video for that employer, or this is how I landed my last job, was to basically make a curated presentation on how I can help their company. So, it was pretty quick, right? It was like 4 or 5 slides on a little bit about me, what I can add to their organization, what value I can bring. So, and I just say that because if you just say, hey, I need a job versus here's all the value I'm going to add, the employer's going to pick the value that you're going to add, right?
Exactly.
So hopefully that's helpful. Does that answer your question, David?
Yes, I think David's quite happy there. But
Okay.
just to focus on that point again, so I've got a few posts on LinkedIn where people like to argue, but I find it hilarious. And we always talk about first impressions. And if you are responding to a job advert, if it's online, if it's on Hire SA, wherever it is, read the job description. Read the job description and make sure that yes, you can take chances where if the experience is asking for high voltage in 5 years but you've only done it for 3 years, that's fine. You can take risks like that. But if I'm asking for a diesel mechanic and you are a truck driver, don't apply for the job. It's not going to help.
Yeah.
But also, you're making a bad first impression from a point of I'm trying to help, I'm trying to connect you, I'm trying to make these connections with people like Hire SA and Matt, where we can actually elevate South Africa and put them in a better market. We can feed people. That's the focus. Come to the party a little bit. We're providing information left, right, and center online. There's a lot that you can Google. You can use AI to your benefit, but you need to consider your first impression. So I'm going to move on to, we're talking about remote work here, and we're going to talk about the pros and the cons. So again, there's a lot of pros and cons to consider. I've just focused on the general ones. We've explained already foreign currency, flexible times, working from home, a global network. I mean, you could be consulting for a US company in the evenings, and in the day you could be working with a UK company. You know, yes, you'll be tired, but if you do it hard graft, we say, for a year, 2 years, you could be financially free, use that money towards opening a business, adding value from a network point. Uncapped job opportunities, and then no commute. So currently the petrol is like 25 Rand a litre, which is not $5 a litre, but it is still quite high for an average South African. But when you are looking at remote work, and I'm not saying this to deter people from it, it is a great option, but you have to consider working hours. If you're working for a US company, are you working US hours? And what sacrifices do you need to make for those hours? Initial setup costs. You need a laptop, you need Wi-Fi, you need a power backup. Maybe you need a second screen, you need a keyboard, you need a mouse, you need a desk even. You need to consider those setup costs. And then also your socio-political situation. So wherever you are in the world, working remotely will help you with certain elements, but it's not going to fix service delivery. It's not going to solve Eskom's power outages. Um, so at the end of the day, you can use remote work as a stepping stone to global exposure. And as we are growing and there are more and more people that are qualified that are coming to me going, Amy, I need a job, but they have absolutely zero experience. And I think it's quite important that people consider remote work to build that experience, to build the skills, but then also plan ahead with your lives and where you want to go with your career. Um, Matt, there was a question I wanted to ask you here. Um, okay, wait, I've already asked you that about why people want South Africans over other nationalities and then how candidates stand out.
Mhm.
What do you think about the way South Africans present themselves when they look at working remotely? Have you got any pointers for them?
Present themselves to the employers.
Yes.
Yeah, so actually, South Africans, what I've seen, present themselves very well. The problem is not their presentation, it's actually just their effort that they put into the application and creating a profile. So, when I was working at one of the largest, or I don't know if it's the largest, but a big global recruitment firm, South we had the most trouble with getting South Africans to create a video than any other region.
Mm.
So I would just say South Africans just put in the effort, right? Put in the effort. If you're using HireSA, then please complete the profile, right? Add the introduction video. If you have a portfolio, go ahead and add that in. So I've seen South Africans present themselves very well, right? I
Mm.
mean, there's been a couple cases where I'm like looking at a video and someone's introducing themselves like on a sidewalk or something like that, or like there's a bed in the background that's not made. Like, come on. But other
Mm.
than that, if you just put in some effort, it's not really rocket science. And from what I've seen, they already present themselves really well.
Absolutely. And that is very common. I mean, I've had meetings with clients in taxi ranks. I've had meetings with clients where kids are running in the background. I have no problem with it, and we adapt to the situations. But
Hmm.
always remember, when you're going through these processes, your first impression is important. And if you
Yes.
dedicate your time and you make yourself look good, it can be super simple, but it will really help you stand out in this industry. Trisha asked about tax implications. I that is literally our next slide. Thank you very much. So when you are looking at working remotely, these are three things you do need to consider. You don't want to be double taxed on income in the US or the UK and then again in South Africa. There is a foreign employment income exemption, but it has to do with where you are physically. So there's a lot of information on this. It is based off your industry and your salary. And then there are also SARS obligations. So for all of you, I want to just give you some great value here. If you email accounts, so I'm going to put it in the chat here, accounts@gpvisas.com, and you make the subject webinar, I will put you in contact with a tax consultant who will help you overcome these obstacles, help you plan your finances, and then advise you on the best pathway. So I have negotiated better rates for this accountant. So I'm here to help you guys, but at the same time, don't try and hide from SARS. They will find you. And you don't want to be spending all this time making these sacrifices and you can't actually enjoy your money. So definitely worth considering here the legalities of remote work. Okay. Then, like I mentioned before, with remote work, you can actually use it as a strategy to get you further in your long-term career goals. So we've broken it down into 3 phases. The first phase is to leverage remote roles to build aggressive financial liquid savings. Now, when people are coming to me for recruitment and immigration, it's a big cost. And if you've got 2 kids, 3 kids, 4 kids, the cost is more expensive. So at the end of the day, the remote work is a great way to build up on your savings. A lot of South Africans can't save just because of the cost of living. So, even if you are taking up a remote role where you are working part-time and you're putting that away, use that wisely, but plan ahead, have those goals in place. The second option there is it's always great to target companies that offer, that are international companies and that offer opportunities that could potentially, let me bring you over. So in the US, they call it an intra-company transfer. There's also something called an L1 visa where you can kind of transfer yourself and you buy a business. And there's opportunities for green cards. But what's really important here is when you have your plan in place that, you can use these resources. Remote work help you get there quicker. The right company that you're attacking basically for this role, does that company offer you growth? Does it align with your goals and your family goals? Beyond that, the phase 3 is align your remote career with specific country visa and immigration requirements. So, for example, I've found this often is I've had specific Zulu teachers, so secondary school Zulu teachers. Now, unfortunately, if you are a Zulu speaking teacher, you have now limited yourself only to South Africa. So if you are now looking at wanting to immigrate, maybe change your experience to something that suits that country, that gives you a visa pathway and allows you to immigrate. Lots of opportunities there, but myself at Greener Pastures, we offer a consultation where we give you a blueprint based off your occupation, your family, your experience, your qualifications, your age. It is important that you consider your age and everything. Okay, so the strategy, you can put a strategy together. And Greener Pastures, how we accelerate your journey. So super fortunate and super grateful for Matt to be part of us here. I am very motivated by LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a platform that a lot of South Africans are not using correctly. And then they are struggling to find work, but then their LinkedIn profile has absolutely no information. Now, when we look at recruitment, I am hosting a webinar next week, Tuesday at 6 o'clock, where we're talking about how international recruitment has changed over time. So this is where we talk about, how CVs has changed, how things are now online. And at the end of the day, doing the applications and having an active LinkedIn profile is going to make you stand out. It's going to give you a good first impression to get an opportunity. And at Greener Pastures, we are constantly connecting with people that will accelerate your journey, that will put you in a better light, that will expose you to better opportunities, but also we do what we say we're going to do. And that's very difficult for a lot of companies in South Africa and also for people to actually trust. But you can see it. Check out our LinkedIn profile, check out our website. You'll see the evidence speaks for itself. David asked another question. How does your age matter when doing remote work? Matt, do you have an answer for this, or would you like me to respond?
Well, I mean, I can certainly give my 2 cents. I don't think. All right, so I'll kind of give my first, 2 cents, but Amy, you probably have some better insight into this. I don't think age matters. I think the only thing that employers consider when talking about age is the older the candidates are, right? The higher the age you are, the more they associate that with you being less tech savvy, right? I think it's a myth, right? But they generally think that the younger crowd is more tech savvy and they'll be able to use new cool AI tools better, right? So when the only thing to keep in mind, now obviously you can't change your age if you are older, but what you can do is you can really put your tech skills front and center on your applications and your profiles. So really make it known that you do bring tech savviness, the best tools to the table. If you do think age is a concern, but I don't really see it asked too often. The biggest question that employers ask when related to that is more just years of experience. So like, how many years of experience does this person have? That's usually what I hear.
Yeah,
But what about
absolutely.
you, Amy?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say the same thing. The tech savvy element is quite important. In South Africa, there's quite a large digital divide between the cities and the rural areas, which is unfortunate. But at the same time, your age doesn't matter. It's how you present yourself. Also, what I've experienced from a recruitment perspective is employers are also scared to hire people that are closer to retirement age. How much work value am I going to get out of you if you're expected to retire in 2 or 3 years? They want longevity. So your age it depends on the employer, it depends on the company, it depends on what you're doing, I feel.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I totally agree.
Great. So moving on, we are coming to the end, and then if you guys have any other questions, please pop them in the comments. But I do have an offer for all the people who have registered and are joining us here today. So LinkedIn, incredible platform. Most of my clients that do LinkedIn and we do their job applications, they get turnaround times of international job opportunities within about 8 weeks, if they are being active. So LinkedIn, a lot of people struggle with LinkedIn. They think it's just to apply for a job. It's so much more to that. You have a personal brand and you have a network. So what I like to use as an example, I'm not sure if any of you know Stephen Bartlett. He does the the podcast called Diary of a CEO. So a very important thing that he shares in his book is there are 5 buckets in life. It's knowledge. When your knowledge is overflowing, you get a skill. When your skill is overflowing, you develop a network. When your network overflows, you get resources. And with those resources, when that overflows, you get a reputation. Now, with LinkedIn, it's my knowledge, my skill, but I've built a network that has helped so many families immigrate and get better opportunities. And I'm willing to share that with you guys. That is a resource that I'm offering, and that also adds to my reputation. So I do standard LinkedIn coaching. It's 2 sessions. This coaching is usually valued at 3,000 Rand. And for all my viewers today and those who have registered, we're offering it for 1,000 Rand. So huge salary, huge cost difference, and it will definitely help your process in finding local work, international work, and even remote work. But it is specific for the month of May, and you have to have registered for this webinar to also qualify for it. So I've shared a little link in the comments about it. Then yeah, I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Let's see if we can go into any further questions. I think, Matt, have you seen any questions that stand out that you'd like to answer?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm happy to cover. I think I think there's a lot of questions here, here in the chat here. Do you want me to give kind of just a short little talk about how candidates can sign up for Hire SA now, or do you want to do that after the questions?
Yeah, let's do that after the questions, because
Okay.
I'll share the link so long in the comments that people can click on and start building their profile.
Okay, awesome. Cool. So let's just go with what does the job opportunities for your reach look like with more senior roles, direct level? I think that's, I don't know if that's for you or.
I see there's a question here about working remotely on an independent contractor basis. What do you think about working, with remote roles? Do the employers want to hire you full time, or are they looking at like invoicing from an independent contractor basis?
Yeah, that is a great question. So I will again share my, insights from just the employer perspective. Hiring an independent contractor is just way easier for employers, right? So I would definitely make yourself, I don't know what the logistics are like on the candidate side of things. Amy, you would be able to maybe speak to that. But from employer side of things, it is definitely easier. I mean, the reason is because if a US employer actually needs to hire or wants to hire overseas, they can do it through a contractor or through an EOR, right? Which is an employer of record. This is this like third party that has like an established, kind of base in, South Africa, and they employ, the candidates. I am recommending that to employers if they're really serious about growing their teams and building up their teams in South Africa. But I mean, for employers, they just get kind of bugged out and like, okay, this is just too much if they actually have to deal with a lot of these tax things, logistics, risks. There is actually quite a bit of risk, or not quite a bit, but there is risk for US employers to hire overseas. So I do recommend, employers, especially small businesses, to hire them as independent contractors. So I would be expecting that would be the situation.
Absolutely. And, just to add to that from a South African point, so I've been working remotely and independently for about 7 years now. And I find that when you are working under your own registered PTY LTD, you can offset a lot of expenses. So I'm not teaching anybody how to evade taxes. Please use my accountant. We've got accounts@gpvisas.com. I will refer you to our accountant who will give you the right guidance there. But if you are working independently, there are a lot more benefits. And a lot of South Africans are scared to do this because there's no stable salary in place. But what's nice is you can actually do a contract of non-employment. And you can be working from you can consult, you can invoice, and you can work for more than one company. So you can grow your network and your, obviously income. So there's lots of opportunities. I would suggest the independent route because I've done it and it works great. But it is entirely up to you. Awesome. I'm not sure if there's any other questions. I think Taryn Lee asked about an accent. I feel like people will understand eventually. You maybe just need to speak a bit slower. And somebody else did ask also about being camera shy. And I would like to address this because not everybody is confident to stand in front, like to do a video. It doesn't happen overnight, to be honest. It does take practice to be confident enough to present yourself, but also at the same time kind of get over it. And I say this with all due respect, but we are going into a tech industry, and a tech remote work is very much the future. People are doing hybrid, they're doing remote work, and there needs to be some form of connection. If I cannot have a video call with my client, I would rather reschedule till we can, because I like to see your facial expressions. I like to be able to communicate with you. It's a human need, reactions. So if you are camera shy, I'm so sorry, but practice, try. It's worth it. It's definitely worth, getting in front of the camera, and it's not going to be published all over and be a TikTok viral video. It's protected. Hire SA has their process. Employers have to go through their process to be able to see your profile. Okay.
100%. We do have one question here. I joined a recruitment agency 2 years ago that stopped assisting me with finding employment overseas. How much does Hire SA provide in terms of looking for opportunities and introducing seekers to companies? Yeah, that is a great question. So we are a job board, right? So you and the employers, it's direct contact, right? So we are not like a third party agency, right? So we're not going to be getting in the middle of that. If an employer is interested, they will message you either on the app or via email, right?
Mm.
And you just talk to them directly. We think that just makes more sense, right? Because that way you're not wasting a whole bunch of time with a third-party agency manager, right? Again, it really depends on everyone's individual situation. But we did just launch yesterday, right? So I'm actually helping out a few candidates who really stand out. And, I'm going to be introducing them directly to our employers. So yeah, and if you need help with kind of, creating a good profile, feel free to email me. I can put my email in the chat here.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, so recruitment agencies, okay, so something to explain with recruitment agencies, and maybe Matt, you can back me up here, but recruitment agencies represent the employer. So you may apply for a job through a recruitment agency. It doesn't mean that you're going to get the job. You still have to go through their process. So where Greener Pasture stands out is we're not representing the employer, we're representing the employee. So you are the employee. And we will make sure that you're exposed to companies that suit your network. Whereas Hire SA, it's a free platform. You can use the link I've posted in the chat box. You can develop your portal and you can be connected with employers. So it definitely helps simplify the process for you all. I'm going to share the link again, just so you have that information. Okay.
Awesome.
Awesome. And then, Matt mentioned there that employers pay a small one-time fee. So that also helps regulate, legit employers through that process.
100%.
Okay. Awesome. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining our webinar. I'm looking forward to getting emails from you all. I'm looking forward to helping you elevate your lives and get remote jobs. Please do share any feedback you have, and we'll end it for tonight. Have a goodie. Bye.
Sounds good. Have a good one. Bye, Amy. Thanks.